everyone, and welcome to a book review. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I've been talking about books, you know that. So, today, to cap off 2018 in a really nice way, I want to talk about my favorite book of this year, that I read this year, that came out this year. It's the best book, and it is The Night Diary by Veera Hiranandi. It's so good. So, first, a little summary. This book is about a 12-year-old girl who lives in what has just now become Pakistan, and she, having a Hindu father, is forced to move with her twin brother and her grandmother to what is now Mumbai. And a little history lesson for you: in 1947, the British left India, stopped colonizing it, peaced out, and then that day, India became independent, and the next day, Pakistan became its own country. And then there was a lot of bad. So they wanted India to be a primarily Hindu country, and they wanted Pakistan to be a primarily Muslim country, and everyone was forced to migrate from their homes, from their ancestral homes in some cases, to entirely new places where they knew no one. And in that move, there was a lot of violence, a lot of riots, just a lot of darkness, and that is what they call partition. It was not a good time. My grandparents lived through it. I'm lucky that they lived through it, otherwise I wouldn't be around today. And this is about a 12-year-old girl who had to as well. Now, this is a work of fiction, I should say that. This is historical fiction. It takes place during that time. The events that happened are real, but the people in the book are fictional. So one of the things I really love about this book is the way it's formatted. So Nisha, the 12-year-old girl in question, has just turned 12, and she has a twin brother and a single father and a grandmother and a servant. And she's just living her life. And every night she writes in her diary, which is why it's called The Night Diary. But she is actually writing to her mother, who has passed away. She passed away in childbirth, so her and her twin brother's birthday is their mother's death anniversary as well. Nisha really feels the loss of her mother, despite the fact that she never knew her, and is compelled to write to her every single day and try to understand her mother, herself, and the world around her by writing these letters. So because it's a diary and such a personal diary, you really get to know the main character so well, and you get to know her voice and her understanding of the world and misunderstanding of the world, because a lot of this has to do with confusing politics that would go way over anyone's head, much less a 12-year-old's. Nisha is really the right way to tell this specific story. Sometimes I feel like in stories, a book is better told by a different narrator. I think Hermione would have been a far more interesting story than Harry's, for instance. But this doesn't have that problem at all. It's such a good voice for the story. So the reason why it's so important that Nisha is writing to her mother specifically is because her mother was a Muslim, and she is half Muslim, but her father is Hindu. So she is being torn away from a place that now represents her mother's identity, and is going to a place that she doesn't know, that does represent half of her identity as well, but it's an identity that's already a part of her. She grew up with her father and her father's mother raised her. Like, she knows her Hindu past very well, but this is one of the few things that connects her to her mother, and she's being ripped away from that. As you can see by the cover, it's such a well done cover, by the way. Can we just take a moment to appreciate it? So look, it's shiny. It's got shiny bits. It's a really unique situation that Veera Hiranandi puts her characters in, which is their mother was from this place, and half of her identity is part of one place and the other half is part of the other, and in the middle there's all of this violence going on, and they have to be in hiding, and they're starving and can't find food as they try to migrate out of what is now Pakistan to what is now India. I'm not going to say it's an easy read or a light read or a fun read, because it's not. But it's a necessary book to read. So many people I know didn't know that this is a thing that happened. They had no idea. They know that in the 1940s World War II happened, and then suddenly all of these countries became independent because England had no money anymore and had no way to negotiate. And people also don't realize that, like, Indians and colonized people actually fought in the world wars, which is why it's called World War. But the British had no ground to stand on, which is why so many countries were able to become independent in the late 1940s and early 1950s. But what people don't realize is what came with that wonderful independence is a lot of scary times for a lot of people. It's not something other people think about. I think about it occasionally because it's a part of my identity and my history. My grandparents and parents are from India. I have roots there, but it's not something I think about every day even. But this makes you think about it from a day-by-day perspective. Like, this is something that happened to someone every single day of their life. They lost education because of it. They lost money. They lost food. They became malnourished and had to hide from the people who were trying to kill them. And this really brings to life some of the things that aren't talked about even in Indian culture. It's necessary, is all I'm going to say. For South Asians and non-South Asians alike, like, it's a necessary book. However, just because it's a difficult book to read and because it makes you sad doesn't mean it's not got some really nice aspects to it. One thing that was really amazing to see was the relationship between Nisha and Qazi, who is the Muslim servant that they had who cooked for them. I would call him a Maharaj, if you guys know what that means in the context. Brown people who know what I'm talking about. But, like, Qazi is the one who cooked for them, and Nisha learned so much from him, and they got separated because Qazi is Muslim and had to stay, while Nisha and her family had to go because religion and politics and bad things. But it was really great to see their relationship at the beginning and how Qazi knew her mom, so it was really nice to see their relationship and how Nisha learned how to cook from him and learned all of these wonderful things from him, and also got some of her mother's love from him. And it was really beautiful to see that relationship develop. Another one of my favorite characters was the brother, Amil, who I would say, in modern times, would be diagnosed with ADHD, but that's also, I have ADHD, so, like, take that with a grain of salt. But it's, Nisha is a smart, strong-willed character. She is the type of girl who gets straight A's in school and also cooks, and she likes to do things and be active. And Amil is more of the artist type who is just, he wants to sing and draw and doesn't really understand numbers, and everything gets jumbled up in his head, and he can't pay attention for the life of him, and has learning difficulties. And obviously none of it's talked about in the way it's talked about in modern times, and their father is not nice to Amil because of the way he performs in school, and the way other kids treat him is awful. But it was really kind of nice to see that represented in a boy, like a soft, artistic boy character, because you don't get that enough. And it's also really nice to see Amil and their father's relationship develop as the story goes on, because they're all they've got. They don't have a home anymore. They don't have anything anymore. They're displaced refugees who have to stick together, and they kind of overcome those differences through the book. And it's also so clear that their father is also terrified, but is doing his best to be strong for these two children who don't quite understand what's going on. Like, their father is a doctor who has just lost his entire business of saving lives, but he still manages to help a few people along the way, which is wonderful to see. But he's just trying to keep it all together, and his mother is with them and is sick, and her legs don't work, and everyone's just so persistent and determined to get through everything alive and together, and it's just so beautiful to see. And all of the characters are so different. Like, you've got Nisha, the type A but girly and always wants to make friends, smart girl. You've got the father who is a little more stoic, but clearly cares so much about his children and doesn't know how to express it. And then you've got Emil, who is artistic and clever in his own way, but is not quite understood by everyone else. And then you've got the grandmother, who's just a trooper and amazing and also very smart and wonderful. And yeah, I just love every character in this book. I love them so much, and they're all so different, and you gotta read this book. Guys, I don't know if I've got this across to you yet, but you have to read this book. The only thing I would say that I didn't like about this book, which isn't even a complaint, is that the voice does read a little more childish than 12 sometimes. But then I remember that this is 1947, and Nisha's not as educated as she wants to be, and she's very clear about the fact that she's not as educated as she wants to be, and she is suffering and is still able to make amazing observations in very simple language. I think I said this a few years ago about A Time to Dance, which also takes place in South Asia, in South India, that one, but this feels almost translated, like I'm reading a translated text from Urdu, I guess, to English, where the language feels simpler, but in a good way, because it's doing is getting every point across, but it still has some beautiful language in it. So I think I have raved for long enough about this book. If you don't want to read this book yet, you're wrong. You have to read this book. I don't care. It's amazing. You have to read it. And I am just going to end this video by reading aloud one of my favorite passages from the book. It's quite in the middle of the book. It's on page 131 if you have this copy, which everyone should. It's only out in hardcover right now. And this is just such a beautiful moment between a brother and a sister. I matched my pace with Emil exactly as I could, making sure our feet hit and left the ground at the exact same time. I made it a game, and the sound of our footfalls became a beat to a song I had heard in my head. It was an old song I heard, a song that Dadi used to sing to us before bed when we were little. Emil used to sing with Dadi, and Dadi would shush him and tell him he wouldn't fall asleep if he sang with her. I remember wishing he would be quiet too. I just wanted to hear Dadi's voice. Sometimes I would close my eyes and pretend it was you singing to us, Mama, but he would only stop for a few seconds and start up again. I realized I haven't heard Emil sing in a long time. What I would do to hear him sing now. Love, Nisha. And yeah, that is a kind of sad but beautiful note to end on, which is this book. Kind of sad, pretty sad, but beautiful. Okay, I will see you guys next time, and I will see you when you have read this book. Bye! Special thanks to Jay Patel and John E. Norm for being my patrons. If you would like to support my video work, head on over to my Patreon and check out the perks.